I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in silence, then let them in, chalk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I came to play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me, then I double up again, none of their knows. None of them cold, they just got lucky but never adapted, so I'm to the one if it's coming to blows. My enemies cutting it close, I let them think that they got me, but what do you know? I had them beat before we ever spoke, I'm ready for smoke. I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming.
I can't remember off the top of my head. Where were we at? We were talking about the festival, and I lost my train of thought when we were talking about it.
What was the crowd like? Like the crowd?
Oh, the people, yeah. Well, it was limited because of COVID, so they could only have, I think it was like 250, 500, I don't know, I forget the exact number of people that they could have there. So there wasn't like a lot of people, but the people that were there were dope. I mean, from the minute I got there, it felt like you were like a neighbor, like we were all neighbors, but like not like a horrible neighbor like borrows your leaf blower and never gives it back. I'm talking like for the most part, like everybody was like Mr. Rogers, you know? It's like, hey man, how's it going? What's that?
It's the hippie movement. It's the hippie crowd. Yeah, that's all the hippies always are like that. You know, they're all, you know, having fun and just hanging out, being cool and shit. I don't think you have too many problems at those type of festivals.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, except for you have somebody, maybe like something gets stolen, because I think one of my neighbors, my tent neighbors, was they lost their backpack, and I feel bad. I went looking for it throughout the night and stuff because I couldn't sleep, and then maybe like I said, maybe like little petty crimes and things, but like outside of that, I mean, no, I don't think anybody really had a problem that whole night there. And like I said, I enjoyed myself. It was just the atmosphere. That's all. Like I had never stayed overnight at a music festival before, so I was like, oh, this is awesome. And also it was like all EDM, but like there was some other music, but there was like EDM. It was that stuff that makes your head like blah 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 blah. Oh, my neck still hurts from like doing this motion.
Yeah,
right
I can't get. I mean, I would last like maybe a half hour of that.
You would last a
Like,
half hour. I could just
half
picture
hour
you.
EDM music.
No.
I don't knock nobody. I mean, do your thing. It's just something that's just not my vibe. But I'm glad it went off without a hitch and everybody had a good time. I'm always happy to see, you know, music people doing their shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'm just glad. Hey, Guy Ramsey says congrats. He's got the bottle of champagne and the confetti shooting out. We love you, Guy. Hey, where them battle raps at, Guy? Where them battle raps at?
100 episodes in, that's where we're at, Dev. A lot of people would have folded at this particular point. They would have folded a long time.
Man, that's like a topic of a big discussion. Being our 100th episode, everybody that's tuned in, everybody, hey, what's going on? Pop some messages up in the chat. We love y'all. Show us some love for our 100th episode. Yeah, most people would have folded by now. Coach, you could probably count on both your hands, toes, both you and my hands and toes, of how many people we've met along the way doing this that were like, I want to start a podcast. They made 3 episodes and bailed.
You didn't understand.
Bailed. Yeah, they were just like,
understand.
They didn't understand what went into it. They didn't understand the time and the consistency. It just. Oh, hold on, wait. Guy says I just posted them to unprofessional professionals. I'll DM them to you. Oh, okay. Well, I'll go in and look. I'll go in. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I seen it earlier. I was gonna suggest something. I was on the run because he was like, and that's one of my pet peeves going in into the like new year and supporting people, because when you have somebody say, like, I was gonna mention it to Guy, but I was on the run, but he did it anyway, like a little while later. He was like, yeah, go look on YouTube and look up this. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody is going to do that, especially when you're at this level, when you're trying to get somewhere. You have to have those links. You have to have something there. Make it very easy for them.
Put the link in the post.
Yes.
Nobody's going to look for your stuff. Like nobody, like if there's not something they can click one time, if they have to click the search bar and type it up Most people ain't doing that. I mean, I'm saying 90% of people ain't doing it. Renee, hey guys, what's up? What's going on, Renee? We'll be talking about some back to school stuff here later on, just for you. So
yeah, fan appreciation. Renee's been for a while. We love that. We respect that. So when she put that down in the thing, I feel like we got to touch on it because like we're gonna get her a #1 fan badge. Do we give those away?
Yeah, I think she should get a top fan. If not, we'll give you one, Renee. We'll award you a top fan badge because Renee's been here commenting, chilling in with what since January, I think. I don't know how long she's liked the page for, but I know she's been in chat for like January. Justin, what's up, my guy? What's going on, Juddy? How you been?
Justin, another one that's been around for a while, consistently talking. It's our 100th episode. We're gonna get you a bottle of Douce and a strip club pass.
A bottle of Douce with a strip club pass and it has a Bridging the Gap insignia on it on the bottle. We'll get it put on there. We're getting a deal with Douce. But yeah. I mean, going back to what we were just talking about with how many podcasts and how many shows have folded up into this point. How many people probably wouldn't even have made it to here where we're at today. I mean, if someone could go back and watch our first episode, we always say, it was in my buddy's basement on a couch, like a couch in the basement. We had a futon couch, which was also like my bed at the time as our set with like a picture-in-picture on top well, I mean, we're still kind of using webcams now, but I mean, that's what we were recording on, was like straight from the webcam. Hey, yeah, thanks, Justin.
COVID shit right now, though, right?
What's that?
We're just adjusted to the COVID shit, really. Weren't we using the camera when we were in the office?
No, I think we were still using a webcam too for that. But the difference was, though, it was just nicer. Like we had it more lit. It was more lit. Woohoo! Congrats, says Renee. Thanks, Renee. We appreciate it. And Justin said that he only will accept our gracious offer if Sarah drops it off to him.
Oh, we can arrange that.
We can arrange that.
We can arrange that. And another thing too, I was asked over the week. They thought that when I was looking down, because Rob mentioned this once when we had him on, they thought I was disinterested. When I'm looking down and I'm looking down at an iPad and I'm sharing our thing to another thing, and it takes a while. So sometimes I'll pop up and then I'll turn back down when Dev is talking. I'm not ignoring him. I'm just getting our shit shared to pages. That's all.
Yeah, you got to get the people up in the room. Oh man, my phone's blown up. Maybe that's all the people coming in liking Bridging the Gap, I'm sure. But yeah.
So share this live. Speaking of, share this live, you guys, out there to people.
Yeah,
let them see it.
So, Coach, I'm going to ask you this. What do you think our biggest obstacle has been being Bridging the Gap?
Being Bridging the Gap is finding that lane. I see the biggest. I thought about this over the weekend. We talked Friday and said, hey man, let's think about this a little bit and come up with some thoughtful shit. And that's what I come up with is just finding our pocket. Because you remember when we were only started for maybe a couple months, and we were visiting someplace. I think it was Muse. What's her name?
Molly Muse Studio. Yeah.
What's her name?
You used to call her Everlast. You know her as Everlast, but her name's
Everlast. Yeah, Everlast. And we seen some guy over there. He was making 3D printing stuff. So we're just talking to everybody in the building, and he asked what we did, and we said, yeah, we pitched what we do, over here, Bridging the Gap, trying to get people from different places to have different conversations about whatever without freaking out and still have a beer. And he was like, what'd he say, Dev? He was like, good luck.
Well, good luck with that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't know. Besides, like,
so
maybe
that's been the biggest challenge is finding that pocket of people that feel comfortable to sit down and have those convos.
Yeah, and it's hard. I think it's hard to find that pocket because that number of people is becoming less and less. But at the same time, I think they're still out there and they still exist. All these beautiful people out here. I'm sure those are the people we have in the audience. And I'm surprised we haven't come under more scrutiny, except for when we had that one guy. What's his name? I can't remember his name now. Oh, the brash American. Since we had the brash American all up in your face. I think that was the only slight of controversy that we really had against us. And even then, like, that was him. He asked for the smoke and he received it. So, like, Yeah, I think that is part of the biggest challenge that we've had. Is trying to find this demographic of people that almost feels like it doesn't there because there's no like I don't think there's like a race or sex or age demographic that you can attach to it. I mean, we built this show off the premise of like all white, black, all opinions from all different races, ethnicities, age groups, everything that we could possibly put together, religions, whatever it is, and be able to have those conversations. Justin said, I'd share it, but a lot of my friends are hard wing rights, where I'm center leaning right, LOL, and it would be a shitstorm, LOL. Justin, we don't care. Your friends could come in here and they could talk that smack. I'm sure, I don't know, are they on the Trump train for getting rid of TikTok? We'll talk about that later. But yeah, if you want to, go ahead. Unless of course, you don't want them in here, then that's by all means you. But we're fine with whoever comes in.
So speaking on that too, like what is the biggest thing, like doing it 100 episodes, that's pretty committed. We already know that. It's just a habit to me now. I don't really think about it too much unless it's just thinking about what we're going to talk about or checking up on some things that have some interesting thing. But other than that, it's just a habit to me. Like I know Sunday, Friday, you know what I mean? Like Fridays when I really start looking into stuff maybe that's hot that we could talk about or what's going on. And then that's when I start delving into it. But I know Monday I have to shoot the show at 7:00. So I think it became that habit where it doesn't even matter anymore. So what do you think you learned though the most of doing this?
From doing this? Wow, holy hell, that is a lot. That holy hell. Okay, that's a big thing. I mean, I've learned a lot through this whole experience. I mean, one of them being consistency. I think that having this thing that always comes back to you on Monday, like always doing, there's like that one thing you do every week and it's like around the same time. So it constantly holds you accountable and it makes you feel, I guess there's always that one thing like you can do and feel good about doing it that week. Like I got something done. And that was a big problem for me growing up, I guess, because back when I was like 21 and so on, like I was just bad when it came to consistency or putting my life together in general, like being organized. But it was good to have like this one thing. Renee says, I don't always agree with what you guys say, but we are all adults and can have different opinions. Yeah, amen. But I don't know.
That's the point. That's the point. Bingo right there. That's the point of the whole thing. We don't have to agree on everything, but that don't mean I got to be like, get them out of there because they don't agree.
Get out, Renee. Get her out of here. She said, did she say she doesn't agree with us? Get Renee out. Get her out, guys. Yeah. No, we don't have any mods. If we had mods, but not even then. But I think also too the biggest thing was this whole show and my relationship with you as like one of my friends and also my co-host. You've pushed me a lot to be a better person and also a better producer, a better everything. Really, you've been my Coach B, like in my life basically. So like that's also a very important thing that I've learned too. I've gotten that from is you've kind of pushed me throughout every step of the way through this show. So it's kind of a cool thing. And I've learned a lot about the culture that I didn't know about too.
That's vice versa on that, buddy. I learned a lot too about things. One thing that I learned the most though too is like it's hard when you have two chiefs and no Indians, and then you got to compromise, right? You know what I mean? Like there's two people with creative direction and you got to compromise. And that's a hard thing for me to do at times. I don't get out of crazy with it, but it's something that I struggled with and I just don't do it anymore. It helps me in other parts of the life when I'm out in life and I could just, okay, let that be or whatever. You walk away from something that I usually wouldn't, or just wanting control of things, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Like I said, like I think that's a really important thing. Like you spend 2 years working with somebody, eventually like parts, like give and take parts are going to rub off to like where it's like, I don't know, improving and talking with that person, I guess. So it's cool. Like it's cool that we got that kind of friendship and whatnot. Oh boy. Robert Brandt is in the chat. He says, now if coach can only push you to get rid of that crappy NFL team of yours and put a winky face, LOL. Something, Sarge, get out of here. You always come here and talk trash on the Raiders, man. What's up with you, man? I'm sorry you got the Chiefs, man. I mean, I can't hate on you right now because you guys are good. I mean, whatever, I'm not going to say nothing. I wonder how much money the music industry is losing due to COVID.
Somebody asked that?
Yeah, Justin Gower said that.
The music industry? Yes, the music. Like if you didn't handle your business and have multiple streams of income, you're screwed right now.
Yeah.
You are screwed.
I would have to say for the artists, it's probably the worst for the artists. I mean, like I'm sure the big producers and you know, like the record companies and stuff are still getting their money. You know, they're always going to get paid, of course. But the artists who make a lot of their money from performing are kind of in trouble. I was actually at this music festival and I was working with Renee said Raiders rule. I was actually at this festival and I met a EDM artist. Her name is Scythist. She has like 200,000 followers on TikTok, and she's pretty big, I guess. And I was in the trailer. I shot some video for her when I was down at the festival, and she was saying about how she hasn't been able to go on tour, and that festival was her first show in 6 months because they haven't, since COVID, there's been no event for her to perform at. So like people that were looking at her, even though she has a huge following, people that were looking at her to sign her aren't doing it. Basically, it's like the music industry is kind of on like a freezing hiring spree. They're not bringing any new artists in. Even if you have potential, they're like, no. Like, we can't take the risk right now, and there's no investment for us anyway because we can't even get you shows if we wanted to.
And to me, it goes back to that which we talked about. Like, there's people adjusting, and doing different things. People are starting businesses. You got to take a hold of your own thing because being creative and finding ways to do some things, to get things out there. Maybe you're going to have to record more and drop more to get downloads or whatever you have to do. It's just an adjustment period. But a lot of people, if you don't have those avenues, you're screwed. You are screwed. If you just have music and touring as your avenue to get money, yeah, you're screwed right now.
Yeah, well, no, this is interesting too, is I wonder, and I haven't looked into this, but this is just a question. Fortnite, that game, you know, that everybody was playing like a couple years ago, but now it's like full of 12-year-olds. They have concerts of people like in-game concerts where they have like Travis Scott and basically live events where people watch these like 3D design model characters like perform their music. And I wonder, do they get like how much is like Fortnite paying artists to like do the cross promotion for that? I'm kind of curious. Or are the artists paying Fortnite? Because if you think about it,
I doubt that.
I don't know, because it's such a big platform. Like I could see, I don't know. I'd have to look into it. You might be right, but there's a part of me that feels like they would almost have to pay because even though they have that big name with it. Oh, God.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But anyway, I was just saying because I think my reason behind why they're going to be paying is because you like you have like someone like Travis Scott, they have to pay for them to make like this 3D like character or whatever and put in all the digital graphics and all the interfacing stuff. And then on top of that, they're basically paying to use that platform to play their music. Like, hey, I want to do a concert in Fortnite, like in your video game. And they kind of like worked around to do it. I mean, there has to be some kind of lucrative deal for both of them at the end of the day, I would think. Trey, go ahead.
No, you were reading a thing. Go ahead.
Trey Frazier came in. Good old Trey from the Barbershop Sports Podcast. Hey, Trey. Trey's one of those day ones, guys. If you guys haven't checked out Trey's Barbershop Sports Podcast, I don't know if they still have it up, but if they do, go check them out. They're awesome. Trey says, what's up, fellas? Congrats on 100 episode, brothers. Keep it going. We're going to keep it going, man. We're going to keep it strong and in charge, man.
Good look, Trey. Yeah, I just think that music thing, I think somebody, like, if you look at it in that manner, I'm sure they probably have pockets for smaller artists, but somebody like Travis Scott is not paying Fortnite. Fortnite's paying Travis Scott to do whatever they're paying him, like use his likeliness, maybe, something in that manner. It's probably not up to a par contract that he would want at this particular time. He probably took less money than he could if it was wide open. But, yeah, he's not paying nobody to do that. He's too big of a person to do that. They're going to spend their money on any promotion they're doing with that. They're going to have people tweaking their fingers on the computer every day, getting this stuff out there.
Tweaking their fingers. So tweaking your fingers. Like you just did, got them crack fingers. They be tweaking on them.
You got the crack fingers.
I got them crack fingers. I got to go look up. While we're talking, I have to actually look this up now because now I kind of want to know like online concerts. But also Sarge brought up a good point too. He was talking about VR. They're doing VR concerts too, where people people use like Oculus Rift and stuff, and they go into like an online chat room kind of deal, and they get to sit down and like experience the concert inside the virtual space, which is really neat.
Yeah, I had an idea that years ago of doing something like that, like a video game where like if you're at the mall, you just sit in that thing and you maybe like type in your birthday right? And it'll bring up maybe songs and do virtual concert, bring up those concerts, and but have it in like surrounding you, or it feels like you're actually there with maybe like VR. But they turned me away from it because of the licensing. You know, my man, he knew about licensing. He was like, it would be too much to license.
So check this out. So like this is just this first article I'm reading here. It says Travis Scott is the latest act to turn an appearance on Fortnite into a landmark event for music, building it on what Marshmello achieved with the game last year. Scott's first concert drew in 12.3 million people, and he will have made a significant income from sales of digital peripherals. The runaway success may only in part be down to the global pandemic and the fact that people are stuck at home looking for distractions. But that's still interesting, though. Like,
Yeah,
right
even
out
if
the
you
gate.
charge them a download, 99 cents. That's $12 million that you just made.
Oh yeah, he got, because of that Fortnite video, he got 7.45 plays within 7.545 million plays in just a day on Spotify after that. And Kid Cudi.
Yeah, you gotta adjust. You can't just, because I know that you haven't heard from a lot of artists, right? A lot of artists, they were talking about this, Russ, and because he did his shit smart, where he's going to be able, he owns his stuff, so he can pretty much do what he wants to do with it, and he can make moves. That's why it's very important that you read contracts and you don't sign your stuff away, man. You don't have to. Take the less money now to make more money in the long run off your residuals and all that stuff, and just owning it, and then figuring out a lane to do that. The more and more you do that, the better off you're in the end.
Yeah, well, we got to thank Justin for that fantastic question, because we kind of just went off the rails with it. We were like, oh, let's go into this. Let's deep dive. Justin said he was hoping to see Kiss one more time on this last tour. Well, maybe you can. Maybe Kiss will become virtual, and maybe they can make them look even like younger than what they try to with all the makeup and stuff and the surgery and whatnot.
And I think that's where everything's going. We have to, that phrase that I hate, the new normal and all that, we're going to have to accept it either way, because things are just going to change. We might say, hey, I would go to a concert right now, but the concerts and the artists might say, we're not doing it. So what do we have to adjust if we want to, do it? So you kind of got to get used to some certain things and make those adjustments.
Yeah. Oh, and Trey Frazier put up his plug. He said www.sports. Whoa, did you plug, Trey? You put the link in here? Wait a minute, Trey. Hold on. Oh, no. Yeah, we'll send you an invoice. Be checking your email. That'll be $100. No, just kidding. Now we're just playing, Trey. Justin says, no, you have to see them live. Maybe if it was somebody else. If it was somebody else, we might have to. But
I agree. I seen some great concert. The best one I went to, though, was a small concert in this New York club. And for as big as he was, he didn't want a big concert. It was Nas. And it was intimate. It was like people sitting at tables, maybe like 100 people. And he just ran through his catalog real quick, breaking it up here and there. But it was interactive. He was walking in the crowd. You know what I mean? Doing those type of things.
It was intimate. It was more intimate than watching some guy on a stage. It was like you were really a part of the experience. Like you weren't just there watching and thrashing around.
Yeah. So that I totally agree with whoever said that. It's better to be there. But it's just the fact that we might not see some concerts for a while. You know what I mean? So we'll just have to go with that. All right. So what do you want to jump into next? We got going back to school, TikTok, NBA, and BLM. You choose.
I'm gonna go with let's go with BLM. I wonder if Sarge is still around. I'm sure he'll have his opinion on it. Hold on. Renee says, I saw Kiss live in the 80s. They were good. And Justin said, no, you have to see them live. I'd argue they're dead. I'd argue that if I looked at Kiss right now, bro, those guys are so old out there on stage playing them guitars and stuff. They can't possibly be looking the same as they were back in the 80s. There's just no way. Kiss was the first concert I took my son to. Decided to learn bass guitar after that, and he got an autographed Gene Simmons pick. Oh, cool.
Well, this is a good thing. Just we'll finish this up with this. A good thing about what I said about taking charge of your thing. Kiss did that early back in the day. They own their likeliness, so they sell so much products a year. Somebody like Justin saying that, or Renee saying they would like to go see them in car. They're still going to make it because their website, I guarantee if we go to their website, they adjusted to COVID and probably gave out some specials on merch and shit like that, maybe sign things
What,
and
Kiss?
stuff like that. Yeah, and are able to capitalize totally off of it. So pretty smart business moves by those guys.
All right, so BLM, NBA basketball. Now, I don't know what the official story is. Now, Coach, is the NBA like working with Black Lives Matter? Is it like an endorsement? Or is it just the players are wearing the stuff? Or how's that working out? Like, I'm kind of curious what all the situation is. I'm sure you're more informed on it than I am.
Well, they're endorsing it. They got to be endorsing it if they're putting it on the courts and allowed it. I don't know if they're actually putting money into it. I haven't seen if anybody knows have they done that. I think they know that they don't have no choice at this particular point. Like if they would have went off the rails and said no, we're not doing it, you would have had a lot of players the Players Association would have said we're opting out. They would have went to LeBron James and said, hey, LeBron, we have to take a stand. And as soon as LeBron made the decision, everybody else would follow. Mm-hmm. So they had to do something. They couldn't alienate the players because you're looking at probably like 65% of the players are black. And these are things in their community that they really strongly believe
really?
About.
I thought the number was way more out of whack. I thought it was like 80 something. Okay, wow, that's crazy.
No. I think it's like 65 to 70 something, somewhere around there. Last time I checked.
Interesting. I'm just saying I thought the number was way higher. I didn't know that, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I think that's just what they had to do. I think it was a good decision. Adam Silver, he's the commissioner. He's picking up where old commissioner that passed away. We talked about him. He was a great commissioner. He understood the numbers. Like we can't alienate people that dominate this sport, like that are playing this sport, making us billions of dollars. How can we alienate that? So I know there's a bunch of owners that are probably in the background like this shit is stupid. I don't want no parts of it, but they have no choice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is there's probably a lot of owners that this is a business decision, which is most of the time it's going to be anyway, but it's a business decision moreover than a moral one. That's my hunch anyway. Like I don't think there's too many owners actually going like, yeah, we really need to protect these guys. I don't think too many of them are thinking that. I think a lot of them are going, well, if we want them to continue playing, and at the same time, like given the circumstances of what else is going on this year with like the pandemic and whatnot, I mean, hell, like could anyone blame them if they didn't want to play? And I've seen, didn't they have jerseys and stuff too with like equality, like the words like equality on the back and whatnot? I was watching because they started up the games again, right? So because I think I was watching a Pelicans game this weekend, Atlanta and the Pelicans.
They gave them the choice to put whatever they wanted on the back of their jerseys. I'm sure there was a list of saying, make sure, you know what I mean, that you're not saying anything slangful that's like, you know what I mean, that could mean something else and people could take it the wrong way.
I would be horrible because everybody would look at me like I was going to put on something for like, if I had a choice where like, they were like, guess what? Because of all this going on, you guys get a choice of whatever you want on the back of your jersey. I would take it. I'd get Gingerlicious put on the back, and everybody would be mad at me if I was on the team.
Oh, bro, you'd get pelted with basketballs. It was dodgeball with basketballs.
Right, because they'd be looking at you, Dev, what the hell, man? Like, why aren't you wearing a shirt that says, like, equality or, you know what I mean? Like, BL or something, whatever has to do with, like, the movement. And then I'm like, listen, man, I only got this one chance to get whatever I want put in the back of my jersey. This thing said Sailor for how many years? I'm getting Gingerlicious put on the jersey, and no one can stop me.
And that brings up a great point about what basically what it is people's reaction to it. You got people that are going to say, like, to me personally, I don't care what you do. If I wouldn't be forcing nobody to do anything. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are probably feeling like they're forced to do it. A lot of players that maybe, because you got a lot of overseas players that have different views and are not used to certain things or how things are at. Maybe don't even understand what's going on, to be honest, because a lot of them don't really speak. I'm sure somebody told them what was happening, but they probably just don't understand it. So you're getting a lot of people that probably feel forced to do it. One thing that was coming out, like you got somebody like Coach Popovich for the Spurs. He's always been an outspoken person about, things in this country, whether it's military, whether it's just things wrongful that like any normal person would stand up for. And he used his platform to do it. He got criticized a lot, especially back in the day when these things weren't changing. Now that things are changing, he's always been like that. But he stood for the national anthem. Like nobody cares in my mind of those players, the ones that really care, they have no hard feelings because we know what it's like to play sports. When you play sports, it's dysfunctional, like I said before, but it's a family. You could have dysfunction in your family and you could still love each other and still understand each other. It is what it is. A lot of these people are supporting some players that are standing, that are down for the cause, but they still feel like, hey, man, I need to stand for this flag. I'm sure they had conversations with it. I'm okay with that. I have no issues with none of that stuff right now. None at all.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point when you were talking about what does that mean to somebody else, and they're taking the dysfunction of the family. Like you could still have disagreements on what, like, say a flag or an anthem or whatever means to you, and still be appreciative of each other. Like just because someone kneels versus someone standing, who gives a damn? Because at the end of the day, like after that one statement you made or that one opinion, you got to think about the 5,000 other things everybody in that whole entire basketball court disagree on. Like, if someone started talking about their favorite ice cream flavor or, like who was their biggest inspiration, like everybody's got a different thing. But then this one point that you disagree on is going to be the thing that just breaks you guys down because how you want to protest some kind of, how you want to protest inequality in this country.
Right.
I think that's just silly to me. Like that would be silly. And there's people out there that I've seen that have made posts and talked about it saying that they're in support of the NBA and how they're handling it and how some of the players are doing it there, but not how the NFL are doing it. It's the same exact principle. It really is. It really is the same exact thing. Why would you even care regardless if they were kneeling at a football game versus they're kneeling at a basketball game, whether they're wearing BLM stuff? Yeah. And I haven't seen a lot of negative reaction. And I don't know if it's because a lot of people aren't either paying attention to sports right now because of just they've almost forgotten about them. They weren't really that big of sports fans. Like we're not getting the casual sports watchers. So we're not getting that big, oh my God reaction from conservative people. And
right.
I don't know if it's a mixture of that or if it's just because like people really like the majority of our population is over all this racist shit. They're on the, hey, I support it. And
Let's move forward.
Right. And Justin Gower, he said that what he would put on his jersey, he'd put on his jersey Coach Hart Sarah on his.
Bro, it's okay. If you want me to reach out to her, I'll hook it up for you.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. He's nervous. Justin, why are you so nervous?
I'll hook it up for you. You got her name. You're saying her name way too much. She's going to appear like Candyman.
Candyman. Oh,
she's
man.
Gonna appear like Candyman, bro. Yeah, no, I totally agree because there's something in there too. Because, like I say, like just as much as you mentioned that you're not seeing a lot of outrage, people are stepping away from sports. That to me don't bother him because I don't think it'll ever affect the bottom line because you weren't. Even when they were saying the black community was saying we're going to boycott because Colin Kaepernick.
Mm.
Good luck with that, because I'm watching football. You know what I mean? Until all those black players put their pads down and walk off the field, there's no boycott because you're not stopping. They're not going to let you stop them from getting their money unless it's a group effort. Now you got to think of that on the other spectrum.
And most people watching NFL football, let's be real, and the majority population of this country is white people. So, that's also something to consider.
Right. And to look at the other end of it, though, like if those players that I just mentioned that could be feeling forced, if it was maybe in the 80s, they would have been able to been like, for F that, I ain't doing that, blah, 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 and still make their money. Now they can't do that. They do that now, they're gone. It's just a fact. That's just how powerful the movement of this is. Do I agree with all that? No, because I still believe you should be able to say what you want to say, but you also got to think that there's consequences to those things. You know what I mean? It's not those times anymore. It's not those times. The times are changing. So you just got to get on board and figure out what way that you can be okay with it if you want to be a part of something like that. You know what I
Oh, Justin brought up he said you guys brought up something good about Colin. He says, I know you guys posted that video in regards to that dog training video where they had Colin Kaepernick's jersey on. Yeah, I was a part of a group. I think Coach is in that same group where some guy came in was saying that there was an equivalence between what Colin Kaepernick was doing with like his protests and what those cops were doing. I'm like, they're just not equatable. One,
No, it's not.
one is just
But
depicting cops as pigs, which is, hyperbole. And the other one is literally putting the image in our heads that Colin Kaepernick is getting ripped apart by dogs, like assault. So
right.
they're just not like, no, the cops in that video that were put the Colin Kaepernick jersey on are the worst people. Yeah. Yeah, they're the worst people. They're not the same. Whoever and anybody who wants to believe that, who wants to say that that's equal, and Colin Kaepernick deserves to get dogs ripping into his arms because he kneeled for the national anthem. Are you effing kidding me? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, what breaks it over the edge though. I mean, they weren't cops. I'm sure there was cops there, but those were that was at the National Navy SEALs Museum fundraiser. They're raising
really?
money for the Navy SEAL museum. And this is what they're doing. So if they're at this fundraiser, there was a lot of important decision makers there, and they were okay with that. That's what's sad about that, because we all know the images. If you know about the civil rights movement back in the day, that right there brought, like, if older people seen that were part of that, that would have gave them some PTSD, because dogs were sicked on people like that back in those times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it kind of revelates. Like, who is making these decisions to say, yeah, that's all right, go ahead and do that. Put a Colin Kaepernick, you know what I mean? Like, those are the things that we're fighting. We want change. To think that that's okay, and then to have people out here to give excuses for it. There's no excuse for you to say that's not a freedom of speech. That's not a freedom thing. That is our Navy allowing something like this to happen. That's not cool. That's not cool. Now, if you guys were, if it was just normal people doing it, yeah, it would be like, that's messed up. You're going to have to accept the consequences if you run across somebody. Mm-hmm. But, oh, well, you do what you do. You know what I mean? If that's what gets you through the day, I just choose not to watch it. But when it's our government, like people that are
military,
supposed to protect military, I know a couple Navy vets. One of our friends on the show is a Navy vet with Melvin. That's where we got it from. Yeah, so I can't see him standing there being a part of that, man. You know what I mean? Like, he would be okay with that and he wears that, wears his I don't know what they call it, uniform or whatever, and in his rank and everything he does with pride. You know what I mean? That's got to be very offensive to him and to everybody, but especially if you're in the Navy. You know what I mean? So that's what I think about that. Those things have to change. You can't just do those things and then you turn around and say, well, Colin Kaepernick kneeled.
Mm-hmm. Right, and again, it always will go back to again, different things mean different things to different people all the time. So what you hear is the flag and the anthem. You think of fallen comrades. He thinks of a country that has that is not doing the benefit of black people any justice, and there's systematic racism. And he's saying that everybody in this country is not equal, and that's an important distinction to have. Now, that actually reminded me. Oh, what? Something happened? You good?
Different things.
Oh, hey, that's me. But anyway, Dr. Levine is a good example of that too. They've been doing stuff with Dr. Levine, the transgender. Is she in charge of the disease control of Pennsylvania, in cahoots with Governor Tom Wolf? And because of how everything's going in here, and the shutdown of businesses and so on and so forth, they have like men dressing up as her because she's transgender and throwing balls and doing all kind of, like, hitting her in the dunk tank or whatever. And it's like, dude, like, why do you gotta, like? I get it. Like, and that's the same principle. Is there they are. They have like dogs attacking Colin Kaepernick, and then here you are. You got to make fun of this person because they're different than you, but not actually address any of the arguments. I mean, imagine being in someone's shoes like Dr. Levine, and you have to make decisions that could literally end people's lives if you just said, all right, open the state back up, leave it open because we care about businesses more than people's lives, and then people started dying left and right. Like, I would have a guilty conscience if 3 people died. Do you know what I mean? Like, let alone thousands like we have in this state already. So like it'd be a hard job to have, and I think that what it is, it's like with anything with an opinion nowadays in this country, it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So find an opinion that makes sense to you. Well, that's you can base it up with some facts, some statistics. Have some good moral principles like that. Everyone's created equal, right? And live your damn life, pretty much, because that's really what the world we live in.
And that's all you got. You got your perception. I don't go off of people's perception. I gather as much information I can, which means that I watch Tucker Carlson. I watch some things to get some information from that to understand why this side is thinking this way so I could have a valid argument. Mm-hmm. But I'm no doctor. I'm none of those things. I'm not a teacher. I'm none of those things. That's none of my expertise. We do this with some of the opinions that we form, but I think that we do it responsibly. And I think that's hypocrisy. I think everybody thinks calling somebody a hypocrite, like we were talking about earlier. Everybody walking this planet Earth is a hypocrite. They have hypocritical times in their life all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
But here's what I would say though is that we're all hypocrites. I agree. Yeah. But the difference is, I think like we talked about before the show, is there's a spectrum, and I think that spectrum, you're less on that spectrum is whenever you're confronted with your own hypocrisy, do you correct it so that way you're not a hypocrite on that thing anymore, or do you stay a hypocrite because you like that belief, you like to hold on to that more? Do you know what I'm saying?
Or you just can't admit that you're wrong.
Right. Or that too. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah, you feign ignorance.
Yeah, you can't just be like, yeah, I screwed up. I do that probably, swear to God, to somebody at least twice a day. At least twice a day, I'm like, oh, screw, my fault. Yeah, I was wrong about that. Or some information like that. There's nothing to be ashamed, because if you do that, people are going to respect you more. They're going to respect you more.
Right.
It's just fact.
If you can look at yourself and say that you're wrong, it's that humility, just to say, oh yeah, that is my bad. You're right. And that's something that we're lacking more and more. Renee says, and people will use anything against another if they don't like what they are doing. Yeah, and I agree with that sometimes. I don't know though, because I do believe that there is an objective right and wrong for a lot of stuff. And I think that you can look at somebody and talk to them, like, for instance, this whole Colin Kaepernick thing we've just been talking about. You can look at someone and say, I can tell you that that's wrong, and I can show you why that's wrong. Right. Like, because, you can use empathy. You could just say, imagine if someone pretend you're a famous athlete, and, you feel there's an inequality with your people and people in a certain race. And hell, we don't even have to, if Colin Kaepernick was talking about police brutality, we don't even just have to talk about black people. Because it also does affect white people, even though it's not at the same proportional level. It still happens. White people are still getting shot in the streets by cops for probably unjust crimes.
And that's a great point. Not to interrupt you, because I might lose this thought. I just wanted to say that.
Go ahead.
They should be pissed off too. They should be joining that, saying, yeah, police shouldn't be killing people because he didn't take his meds today. You know what I mean? Or he had a little bit of drugs and tried to run. It shouldn't happen. Like, it's just, it doesn't matter who it is. You should be speaking up too. That's the point of the whole matter. But when you say, oh, it's then when somebody comes to tell you and show you the facts, you just say, oh, well, no, they're police. Oh, you should be respecting them, the uniform and all that. No, then it turns into, okay, this is where we're going with this direction now. You don't want to be a part of it. We're going in this direction now. So that's kind of how I see those things. Like, those people, you should speak up just for, like, me, Dev. I don't care. I'm going to speak up. If something's wrong, especially out in the public, in the world, I'm going to say something about it. I'm going to say something. If I'm in the mix of that shit and I see it, I'm going to say it no matter what it is, no matter who's doing it, no matter what color they are. If the shit's wrong, it's wrong. That's just how it's got to be. And that's the world that needs to go forward, even though we're wishful thinking. But but we got to think like this. The leaders and stuff, we look for our leaders to make decisions for us, but we're the ones out here bumping into each other day. We got to make those decisions to be those people, and then they're going to have no choice but to make the changes in the system, because they're not going to get reelected. They're not going to get this. They're not going to get that if they don't. We have the power, and people are starting to realize that.
Yeah, I think we do. We could talk about that more in depth another time, because I want to move on to the TikTok conversation, but we definitely need to do something like term limits for like senators and representatives because it's just insane. Like they can be how long they could stay in there, keep getting reelected. It's ridiculous. But anyway, so TikTok. Mr. Donald Trump said he's getting rid of TikTok. Well, they're going to make a decision on getting rid of TikTok. Now, me personally, I have not watched TikTok. I have not downloaded the app TikTok. I haven't really worked with TikTok. I could give a shit less about TikTok, honestly. I mean, there's funny memes that come from it, but I'm sure if they wanted to make a new meme thing, they would just go to a different app, right? So it wouldn't even matter at that point. But, TikTok has grown tremendously huge, but the reason why they want to get rid of it is a threat of national security. Donald Trump is saying that, because this app is made by China, they're mining people's information. Justin says, bullshit, Dev. But what you think I've been on TikTok, bro? You go through my phone. I ain't got enough. I don't even got enough room on here.
Secret TikTok account.
I got secret TikTok.
Look up Gingerlicious.
It's me dancing with just nipple tassels on. That's it. That's all my TikToks are. But anyway, regardless, I could really care less about the getting rid of TikTok. But I do think it's interesting because this does show me how afraid America is of its own national security and like where its place is in the world, among other superpowers, because they're scared, China's getting our information from our people because they have this free market system where everybody's going to this new app that everyone seems to enjoy. And I have to be honest with you, like, it's almost sounds like America's intimidated by being outplayed in their own game of the free market world, where people are enjoying their apps and technology more. And because of that, their people, the American people, are kind of subjugating themselves from influences from foreign nations. Now, I don't know what you do about that. Does America ban TikTok and then create a competing app? I don't know, honestly.
Well, I think to me, I'm not even looking like that. I don't think it has anything to do with security. We know China has done some things in the past. We know every country is spying on us. We're spying on us.
Right, bingo.
It's not that. Yeah, it's not that. He's trying to do a strong arm move for Microsoft. He's doing some mob shit. He basically told them, sell to Microsoft or you got 45 days. That's what he said today. Mm-hmm. Sell to Microsoft in 45 days or I'm banning it. I don't even know. How can you ban it?
And that right there, that's like global monopoly kind of shit right there. They're like, sell it to an American-based company or you're in trouble. Like, it's insane. And Justin said something. He's like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if China is mining data. No. I'm pretty sure they are mining data. Like, they are taking stuff. But I said this same argument to somebody else because they're like, TikTok is a threat to our national security. I said, don't you think Facebook does the same exact thing whenever they're in Vietnam or Malaysia or whatever country and around the world, Arabia, all of our fans in Pakistan watching, hey, Pakistan, we love y'all. Jamaica, Bangladesh crew, what up? If you can even understand what I'm saying. But anyway, regardless, you look at those people. You don't think Facebook is taking all of their information too, learning what they like, selling ads to them? Like, give me a break, man. Like, give me a break. Yeah. Like, you don't understand. It's hypocrisy.
There's a power play in that too, though, because Facebook, you're not allowed to use Facebook in China.
Yeah.
They don't let you use Facebook. And I'm not saying that to go against, like, they're not using it, because we know their leaders are looking at it. They're using it to the best advantage they can. But the normal people ain't allowed. They have something they use that's their Facebook. But
they have like their own internet, basically. Like, they have parts of the internet that are blocked off for people that live in that country. Like, there's just things you can't access, because the truth is, if people in China had access to all the information that like Americans have at our disposal, they would realize how shitty of a country they live in, and they wouldn't want to be there anymore, or they would want to do some crazy stuff.
They're propaganda and shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, it is what it is. I just don't see, like, are we turning into that where we can't use other countries' stuff? Has that ever happened before? Have they told us
Well, not in America. I mean, China's done that, obviously, and like those kind of countries that limit it. But I mean, us as a country, I don't think we've ever really done it. I think we're seeing like this kind of rise of authoritarian kind of like what is it called? It's called protectionist policy, where like everything's about protecting the interests of the country's independence as as a nationality. Renee says, I've heard TikTok is used by pedophiles to lure children. True. Very true. Well, you know what though? It's because like I've been on TikTok and you'll have girls that are like, you'll look and there's some girl who's like 16, 17 years old. Like you can see her nipples doing stuff on TikTok. You're like, where's your parents? Like just making a video that, and TikTok, the algorithm is so crazy. Like anybody can see that video. So like you could go instantly viral with that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I think it's just one of those things that they just probably got to work out. It's more of a, it's a more of a inner. I think it's more, has more to do with politics, and it has nothing to do with China. I think it has to do with our politics in this country right now. The reason why doing it, and money, because he did something for Microsoft earlier too that helped them a lot. Because they were in a little bit of trouble in a jam, and I can imagine COVID helped them out too. So he might have some backyard deal with them too. Like when you get out of the White House, you're gonna have like $500 million bag for you waiting for you, Trump, some shit like that, because it happens.
But, Justin said, "Busted, Dev. I knew you were on there, LOL." Because I said about the people on there doing that with the being like half naked or whatever on TikTok. Hey, you don't know how I saw some of the stuff on TikTok? Because my old man's on there, like on like all these conservative memes and stuff, and you can see it like random stuff just keeps popping up, like it's like a random algorithm, and you see the shit and you're like, holy hell, like how do people get away with this? Renee says, my 11-year-old wanted an account, and I said, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at the memes, just go on YouTube. Like, just go watch a dank meme compilation. You can look at the memes there, and then you could skip all the creepy stuff.
Yeah, I think it's more of saying, parents, make sure you know what's on your kids' phone. But we know how we are. I knew while kids had two phones.
Wait,
kids had
are you saying kids nowadays have two phones?
Two phones, yes. One phone is that they hide, whatever they're not supposed to be on, and one phone's when the parent says, because they don't think they have the resources. Kids have more resources to make more money younger than we ever, even in your bracket. Even in your age, being younger, there's more resources now to make more money. You can get a phone and put all your, you know what I mean?
Wasn't there a kid who was like selling shoes? He was like a big deal for like, he got like a big deal because he was like doing shoe stuff. He was like 15, 16 years old. He's like this big entrepreneur. Preston Mitchell came in and said, I find it funny that Trump wants to ban TikTok right after he got clowned by TikTok kids at his rallies. Yeah. That's another thing too. That's probably listen, that's probably, Coach, we're really looking at this like too in depth, bro. It was just a bunch of people with like socialist agendas. We're on there talking trash on Trump. Like, and he's like, I don't like TikTok because they say mean things about me and I'm great. I'm going to have to get rid of it. It's tiresome. I don't like it anymore. It's not great. That was it. That was pretty much the whole conversation.
Well, it's gonna be a shit show from here on out. So get ready, bro. We're gonna hear funny shit about it each day. We know we try not to talk about it, but he's too entertaining. Like the other day, he was crying on the thing. Like basically, like he was like, Dr. Fauci has high approval rating, but nobody likes me. I wonder why doesn't nobody like me? And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? We got shit going on, and you're worried about your who likes you.
Who likes you? Like. You know something? I think if he would focus less on like, I think if he focused less on people liking him, and more on taking actions to fix the things why people don't like him, more people probably like him.
Yeah, if he didn't put himself in a box.
Yeah, he's just a narcissist. I don't think he can get out of himself.
I think if he would have went a different direction and kept like that Donald Trump, who everybody knew, like branding, like. Came up, didn't know, but once you run that fine-tooth comb from him, and then you go on live TV and say things that just back up everything that the other side, the left, is pointing out, you're in a box now. You chose that side to win. Now he's looking. You can tell his whole demeanor is crushed. Like it's none of that bullshit no more. None of those rallies. Can't do none of that. Can't get, that energy he was getting before. He's not getting it. So now you have to show us what you can do. If he wouldn't have stayed, I think he could have beat Hillary by being a fucking stand-up person and saying, I'm for this, I'm for that, without putting himself in a box. He would have beat her.
Yeah,
I truly believe that too.
Yeah, a lot of people would have said that because honestly, this is one thing I agree with Ben Shapiro on. He was said that politics is all about making yourself look more votable than the other person and making other people not want to vote for the other person. And Hillary was just that person. Like everybody didn't really want her in office. Justice, I don't think he needs to stay. I do think he needs to stay off Twitter. Yeah, I agree. I don't think a president should be like openly up on Twitter unless he's. But I don't know. I guess it's gonna be like a whole different world.
Part of his thing. That's how he got elected, though.
Yeah.
You can't stop that.
But I'm saying, like, that's a whole different thing now, because this is something interesting that I'm thinking about is for the future. Now, of course, no, like, Donald Trump, because of how dumb he is with his tweets, he should stay off Twitter. But we're going into a world where, like, whenever I grow up and, like, say I'm running for office someday or whatever, there's going to be a whole entire, basically, database and book of all of my information, everything I've ever said, whatever. Just from my age now till whenever I get older. And of course, now I'm on a public platform talking about things, so that's even going to be more so the case. So one would have to imagine, like, I think, like, instead of we have to get used to people using Twitter, like our politicians and our presidents and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's a new trend. You got to get used to. You got to adjust. Everybody just has to adjust. I don't see stopping it now is not a decision. It never would have been after, because if he would have stopped doing that, it would definitely be out of whack now. He has to make sure. That's how they're like I always say, heat check.
Mm-hmm.
They're throwing things against the wall right now with all the outrageousness and things that he's saying, because they're trying to they don't have nothing that has their base all uproared and like going into this voting season, the wins out of it. So they're throwing things against the wall to see what sticks, and then that's what they're going to run with.
Well, the truth is, when you come in with such a high intensity of, like, controversy, the only thing is you have to, like, keep becoming more and more controversial. And to be honest with you, the only way that if they're trying to keep that air of, like, controversy to, like, ride into, like, the next election, they're gonna have to do, like, literally the craziest stuff imaginable, like the kind of fascist stuff that they're doing now. Like, that's the only way. To, like, get you're gonna have to get the really, really radical right people on your side, I think. That's the only way, because we're desensitized. I'm desensitized. I think your voter base is desensitized. Like, even the ones that thought the shenanigans were cool, they're like, okay, like, I've seen this a million times. Like, I'm kind of over it.
Pull another rabbit out of your ass, because this one ain't working.
Yeah, this one doesn't look too good. We are getting close. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you saying? Go ahead.
I was saying we're getting closer to the end of the show, so we might want to move on to talking about school.
Yeah, we're going to talk. That's where I was going into, because since we were talking about that, he's pushing. That's one big thing, that he's pushing our kids to go back to school, but his son is not. Their school is not going to school. They're not starting school. His son. So that is just a red flag right there, right off the bat. Like, your son's school is not having school. They're not starting school on time. They didn't say whether they're canceling it all the way or not, but they're definitely not starting on time. But you're going on live TV every day saying that our kids should be in school. That is crazy. That is crazy. And if you sit on that side and say that's okay, you're out of your mind. You are out of your mind. You're not using your mind at all.
Well, like we talked about, should kids be going back to school? Because to me, like, this whole thing has exposed something that I think's very weird, or it's like the future, kind of, in a way. Like, it's showing that big schools, like schools in and of themselves, I guess, at times like this, are kind of like, one could say, like, a liability and a drain on society, because once a school, like, say we have, like, right around where we live locally, we have this big school being built, and this is to anybody that's, like, got a school being built or an addition being built to their school, it increases the taxes, and for us to maintain this large structure, whenever most of the information, the education that our kids get comes from, it comes from like the internet and technology and all these things, like, as we move forward. And this is kind of an opinion I have, is, should we be looking at these big schools that we've built and saying, instead of building them for, students and going back to school and all that, should we say this is the time that we should change our education system and make it more of a personal, self-taught discovery type deal, where we have a general curriculum, we reduce the size of all, like, the general public structures, like, how big schools are, making them, like, even adapting them for other purposes, like taking, like, that building that used to be a big school for a bunch of kids and turning it into, like, a multi-purpose place for the homeless or what have you, some kind of other nonprofit organization, and then use, like, another half of that school, bringing half the kids coming to school only 3 or 4 days a week, or three days a week, swapping alternating days, and then, a lot of stuff they do on their own to learn. I'm kind of curious what you think about that, because Renee says her district, our district's learning is leaning towards going virtual. So.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. See, like, I'm not afraid to give credit where credit's due, because Trump said something that I think makes sense, is if, like, we just talked about the sports, they're allowing them to opt out with no penalties. You just don't get paid, right? So our children should be able to opt out of school without no problems, and there should be a budget for that. So we know how much a prisoner costs every day to house a prisoner. So we have to know how much it costs a year to have a child come to school, and what it costs for that. Take that budget, and if the parent says, I don't want my child in this school at this particular time, take that budget, and then you give that budget to that parent, whether they hire or they have to find, like they do with with childcare. When you need help with childcare, you have to find that childcare provider. They sign some papers, and then they pay that childcare. So maybe you hire a tutor or whatever, and they go through whatever the virtual what's it called?
Virtual, like,
the virtual
education? What are you talking about?
Yeah, the educate. Well, what's it called? The curriculum.
Oh,
the virtual curriculum. You pay them. We created some more jobs. Also, pay them part of that budget. The school size will cut down to something what you're saying. I do agree that school shouldn't be 5 days a week and all that time. It doesn't need to be. It really doesn't, because the information that we learn, I don't know about you, but I think that schools that I learned that should be burned, because they did not tell us things we needed to succeed in life. They just told us what they wanted us to repeat over and over and over and over again.
Right.
History and things like that. Now, science and math, I do believe those things. Math, you only need a certain extent unless you're going into something bigger. Science, you need to know those things, stuff like that. But you mostly need life skills. So figure that part out. You shouldn't be going on hiatus right now. You should be figuring this out. Just don't throw our kids out there, because this is the thing. This is what's holding up the stimulus package. Because Slicky Dick Mitch don't want nobody to be held accountable if they go to school, if they go out into a restaurant and they catch COVID and die. They want to put something in this stimulus package that says everybody's free of any kind of liability, can't be sued. So, but now you're turning around telling us send our kids to school. Now, what if a kid, numerous kids get sick and die? You're telling the parents, oh well, you know what I mean? That's the concern that I have. A parent should have the opportunity to opt out. They have to follow a certain curriculum that they come up with, and then give them the money to go find those people. You know what I said about, childcare. Do the same thing. You find a tutor. That tutor, he has or they have the credentials to do it, and then you pay that person to teach some kids. Virtual.
Yeah, and those would all be great things. Now, granted, the state, again, the state won't find money for that, of course. They'll find money for things like, bailing out big companies, but they won't have money to, go and give your kids an education like they should. So, you might as well just throw that out blow it out your ass, I guess. In my opinion, I think that's what they're not gonna do it. I like the idea. And there's some things Renee and Justin have been saying, so we'll read these comments quick and then I'll kind of address them, because I think they're pretty, they get to the point. Justin says, my kid's first quarter is at home again. Renee said, our district is leaning towards virtual. Justin said, explain this to me. My kids have been out of school since March, and they just voted to give the principal a raise. For what? Renee says, but a lot of kids need extra help that they may not get if they don't go back. And then Renee also said, and they still don't coach. It's all repetitive. I think she was referring to what they teach at school. And to address, I'll start with what Justin said here. I mean, your principal gets a raise? Yeah, I mean, again, for what? For what is your principal? If anything, the teachers should be getting raises, because they're probably the ones that have to put in more work for the virtual courses and do all of that. I mean, to adjust their planning curriculum, to do all those things. I can only imagine, what does the principal have to do with any of that? Besides like the management. But like I said, at the end of the day, like I said, like schools, like big public schools, we can see how much of a liability they are. And then you have some guy who's basically, your principal's now the groundskeeper for this big institution that really just exists virtually now. Like this big building and everything, the classroom and all that, it almost doesn't even exist really. And again, like you were saying, Coach, about what they're teaching at school. I think if you had 3 days in school where you're actually like learning those, for one, it's just overkill. Most people, they forget half the stuff they learn in school, and it's because, for one, there's just too much general stuff at one time. They're just throwing at you, being repetitive. Do this worksheet, do this thing, to try and drill it in your mind, right? I'm not against homework, but I am saying that going in 5 days a week, homework every night, coming home, do this. It's crazy. Like it's insane, a lot of stuff for a kid to have on their shoulders. And I say you reduce that down to 3 days a week, and then those life skills you were talking about. If you have programs like mentor programs, because we know, and especially in like poor communities, inner city communities, we have places where there aren't a lot of extracurriculars. Reinvest some of that money that went to those schools into extracurriculars where they're going to learn those valuable life skills. And be around positive, influential figures. I mean, that's just me. And then, of course, like I said, virtual, I don't know. I just have this real big thing with how I think this whole thing has exposed the education system for what it is. And that is just a big old, I don't know, like a money pot that doesn't really need to be that expensive. Because the information exists out there and basically on this essentially free, endless server, as long as someone's educating you properly.
Yeah, it would save a lot of people. It would save a lot of money. Like the thing about it is too, I do worry about the social part of it, because I did learn a lot of social skills, being in school, how to act, certain things, from being parts of sports teams or gym class. You just learn certain things on how to, be social. And, without guidance of your parents or maybe your older brothers or whatever, you're in there with people your age, you're learning. So those things would concern me. Like, you don't want to cut off social existence. So, but I just think that they, like you said, they overdo it. 5 days a week is just way too much, I think, because they talked about this back when I was going to school.
Yeah.
It was a quietness, but they were saying maybe going 3 days, 2 days off, and then coming back, 2 days on, then 3 days off, like in 2 week cycles, but it never went anywhere. Because I just feel like they were wasting money on some stuff that you really don't. You know what I mean? It's like repetitive stuff.
The problem is, and this is, I don't want to cut you off, but this is the problem too, is because it's not just rethinking the education system. Because if you start telling your kids that they have to go to school 3 days instead of 5 days a week, and the work week for a typical American's 5 days a week, and then all of a sudden their kids are coming home, there becomes a crisis for the change of the economic system, where it's like, wait a minute, now parents have to be back at a certain time or a certain day, or they have to hire babysitters. Like, it would require like a structural change of not just the education system, but how adults manage their lives, especially if they have children. Renee said, I don't think it's safe, but what about social interaction with peers? And Coach, you brought that up. And like I said, I think if you create more programs where like extra curricular activities, or even like part of the curriculum becomes community service. Like, your kids, like once they hit like age 7, they are like thrown into like, hey, you have to go to the downtown, this place, the shelter, the whatever, to work with this group or that group, and help out and do these little things. Like, because I think you learn so much just being in your community, as well as what it is. I don't know. Like, I think that would be valuable. And then too, you're still interacting with your classmates. There's still sports. Like, we're not saying like throw out sports or anything, obviously, but there's still sports. You create more extracurriculars with that money, and you're going to save more money by paying out to like nonprofit extracurriculars than, thanks Renee, curriculars, than you would maintaining a huge fucking building that's not going to be used for that really, it's just meant to house, basically box kids in and for like a big daycare.
Babysitter.
Yeah,
it's a babysitter. And I think, like, and to finish that out, we're getting to that point, but to look at those things and saying, okay, I'm saying don't go to a building 5 days a week. But those other 2 days are the extracurricular days that you're talking about.
Bingo.
Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe they go, like you said, go learn, go see, like, go down to the, I can't
Field
think of
trips.
anything off my head. Yeah.
Field
go
trips.
somewhere. Go interact with stuff.
Like take all that extra money you have, take them out to places where the history really is. Because when I was in school, you had like 2 field trips a year. Imagine if you had like 6. You went to like a zoo and you learned about biology and nature. Then you went to, downtown somewhere where you learned like about the history, like the real history of what happened in your area, like the wars and everything that was fought and all of those things. I'm just saying, like, imagine that, like how much that would expand the mind of a kid. I think it'd be a totally great idea.
And then also, like, do it age appropriate. You get to high school, I think you should be down learning. You should go to a jail and see how it works. You should see what happens when you make mistakes, not just hear a teacher say, "Oh, you're either gonna be rich or you're gonna be locked up." I was told that many times.
I was gonna say, the producers of Beyond Scared Straight would make a killing because they'd just be like, "Hey, is your class going to the next prison? We'll pay to film it. We'll give you money so we can pay to make a video out of it."
Or go to and you go to the I know there's liabilities, but there's always there's waivers. There's some things you sign around, you get around, and you make sure it's just us sending them to school is a liability because we don't know what's gonna happen in that school.
Right.
But and then maybe go to the homeless shelters, maybe health class, you go to a hospital and a nurse comes in and says, "Well, listen, they tell you how it really is instead of, you know what I mean, the fluffed up thing that we hear in school every day." You know what I mean? So
right
I just think it's a way to do it.
Yeah. That's all I really have for it. Coach, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just saying, moving forward, we got, like, I'm glad we made it this far, man. Virtual high five, Dev. Good shit. We're gonna keep going, and we're gonna just keep grinding this out. We're gonna get to where we need to. So thanks for everybody that supports us. We're gonna find that pocket we're looking for of fans that come in and interact more, so you guys can have some more people to interact. We're working hard at that. Like I said, we're in a tough lane to go, and I'm glad we didn't give up. So, but we're gonna make it happen either way.
Yeah, like I said, we're determined. We're ready to go, rearing and gearing. We're going to keep on pushing, bringing y'all the stories and the love. We appreciate everybody that's been in the chat today. Renee, Justin, Sarge, Trey. Thanks for stopping out, Trey. We haven't seen you in a long time. I think we need to put him in the other group because I think he's still in the old one. We haven't brought him to the new one yet, so we need to do that.
It's still in the old one, yeah.
Yeah, but okay. So, again, thanks everybody for coming chatting us up. Stay beautiful. Take care of yourselves. We are out of here. Bridging the Gap. 100th episode. See you.
100.